Good afternoon, brothers and sisters, and welcome once again to the Self-Improvement Basis for Community Development Talk Show. I'm your weekly host, Brother James Muhammad, and I have on the show with me this afternoon to discuss the Nation of Islam Prison Reform Ministry, Brother Malik Muhammad. Brothers and sisters, honored to be back. It's been 19 months since the quarantine, and now we're back live, producing shows for the Self-Improvement Basis for Community Development Talk Show, a show that is heavily influenced by the self-improvement study guides of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. Brothers and sisters, first of all, thank you for coming on the show. And before we get started, I'd like to share some words of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan as it relates to the Prison Reform Ministry. The minister writes, "True prison reform starts with the enlightenment of who the inmate is in reality, and not what he or she has become due to circumstances. True prison reform reconnects the soul to its creator and begins to provide those human needs. And then we see a change in attitude in the inmate that leads to behavior change." Brother Malik, once again, welcome to the show.
Yes, sir.
You can relate to that, right?
Yes, sir.
You have a testimony to tell.
Yes, sir.
How did you come in contact with the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad as it relates to the prison reform ministry?
Some lady, I came into the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad as it relates to the Nation of Islam Prison Reform Ministry and the Virginia Department of Corrections. And I'm just recently coming home after a 25-year sentence.
25 years, huh?
Yes, sir. And the first particular process of it is that in there, your attitude generally hardens into your beliefs. So as I was sojourning through the Department of Corruption, I was constantly getting assault charges or in trouble because I felt that I shouldn't have been there. I thought I was on my way home when my family was in the courtroom with me, and the charges were dropped. But the Commonwealth attorney said that we reserved the right to pick up the charges even though they were dropped. So my attitude was, I don't care, until I got brushed with the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad being taught by the Honorable Mr. Louis Farrakhan.
Now, you share with me a testimony that someone invited you to the mosque before you was incarcerated.
Yes, sir. It was a brother by the name of Brother Gregory X. And I said that I'm not going to stop looking for this brother until I find him. And he called me the Sunday before I was to go, and he said, "Some lady, brother, this is Brother Gregory. Do you need me to still come and pick you up?" Right then, at that instant, I told the brother Eli, I said, "No, sir, brother, I won't be able to make it. I got a family emergency that's just coming. I got to go out of town." So I was in Virginia 3 days, and it turned into 25 years of my life.
25 years of your life.
Yes, sir.
And you really was an innocent man, too.
Yes, sir.
You was just with the wrong crowd, right?
Yes, sir.
In 25 years.
25 years.
Now, what feeling did you have? Did your self-accusing spirit wake up? You said, that brother asked me to go. I should have went. Do you have any regrets? Do you reflect on that moment when you gave him that excuse and wish you would have went to the mosque? Or you think this path has been directed and guided by God?
When this first happened, and I actually got with the brother, and the brother we were on lockdown because we just had a major riot that was at the facility. So we were on lockdown for a year. We went on lockdown September of 1994, and we didn't come off until November 16th of 1995. So I actually watched the Million Man March on BET, and it was a brother by the name of Brother Willie X. Brown. he was coming door to door. He was a cell house worker. So he came by and just tapped the door. "Assalamu alaikum, black man. You need anything? Can I get y'all something? Can I get you something to read?" So I'm like, "Yeah, let me get something to read, man." So the first book the brother gave, he gave me A Message to the Black Man. So I'm looking at the book, I'm like, "Man, what you giving me this for?" I asked for something to read. He said, "Brother, I'm giving you something to read because your path and how you acting in this prison system, you're gonna either kill somebody and raise your time, or somebody gonna kill you and you're gonna get toe tag parole." He said, "But the outcome is never gonna be good. So I'm asking you, brother, give this a chance." I put the book up under my bed, up under the mattress, and never went to it again. Brother come back, he said, "What you think about the book, brother? Have you read it?" So I was like, "Man, I'm still reading." So he's like, "Well, tell me what you read about it. What you think about the first chapter?" So I'm trying to finesse my way through it. And he said, "Brother, you ain't read the book yet." I said, "I know you ain't read the book because you can't even tell me about the first chapter." So I sat back and I started reading it. And as I'm reading, I found myself staying up later and later and more with the book. But I was still going through my trials and sojourns and straddling the fence, if you will. So that was my first encounter. And my first book that I read was Message to the Black Man. That began to awaken that self-accusing spirit. And I began to think about it. I was like, "Man, I should have went with that brother. I wouldn't be in this condition right here." But as you stated, I believe it was the God that ordered those steps because of my rebellion to get on the path that I'm on now.
Brothers and sisters, you're just now tuning in to the Self-Improvement Basis for Community Development Talk Show. I'm your weekend host, Brother James Muhammad, and we're back on the air. And we have on the show this afternoon, Brother Malik Muhammad, and we're discussing the Nation of Islam Prison Reform Ministry. One of the best.
Yes.
Even Bush said it. And the Nation of Islam Prison Reform has really influenced many men's lives. Now, Brother Malik, I'm asking you on camera now, what is your age?
I just turned 52.
52. When you look at him, he looks about like 32. And that's because of the teachings of the Most High Elijah Muhammad practicing how to eat to live.
Yes, sir.
Another thing I'm pretty sure you learned within the system. Now, you reminded me of a story when I was on ship and it felt like I was out at sea. And there was a guy named Gino Rice gave me the Message to the Black Man. He checked with me. He said, "Brother, have you read it?" When I first opened up the book and it said Allah is God, that shut me down.
Yes, sir.
And then I wasn't a reading person anyway. Now, if he gave me a book with plenty of pictures in it, I would have looked at the pictures. But I wasn't going to put the effort to read. And I actually put that bed under my little mattress. I was 3 levels up. He stepped under me. And he asked me the same thing. Not ever knowing that 7 years later, I would run into that book and run into a man that was teaching that book, the Honorable Minister Farrakhan. Now, your first step accepting the teachings when you was incarcerated, what type of difficulties did you face? Because, I go into the prison system. And one thing they don't like is the Nation of Islam.
Right.
They can give us credit, but they don't like the discipline that they see in the men because they lose authority over them once that discipline takes over and take hold. So they don't have to tell them what to do. They're trying to practice righteousness, and I've seen it with my own eyes. What type of difficulties did you face?
The difficulties of not receiving my final call newspapers.
Yes.
Multiple books going on the banned book list and getting transferred. It was a point where I had my literature, my books, and when I get to personal property, you got maybe 2 or 3 captains, a lieutenant, sergeant, and a couple other officers. They're going through my property and say, "Well, you can't have this, you can't have that." So it's always trying to provoke and instigate because they knew that this is what we were holding on to and what I was holding on to that was ordering my steps. So it felt like you were taking my lifeline from me. So if you're trying to take my life, then I have no regard or respect for yours. But there was one of the captains that was there. His name was Captain Gibson, and he came in and took me out because I went off. I was ready to just go to war with every last one that was there. And he came, he took me out. He was a Mason. He said, brother, I know this ain't what Farrakhan teaching y'all to do.
Mm.
I said, how do you know what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan is teaching? He said, everybody's not blind to the knowledge itself. So I'm looking at him. So I'm thinking that he's a Muslim. He said, I'm a Prince Hall Mason, but I know about these teachings and we love Farrakhan. He said, brother, they can take all of your books, but if the book's inside of you, then what have they took? Mm-hmm. Are you just reading the books or are you internalizing the book? So right then, I was looking at him like, okay, now I need to take a different approach to how I'm going into this subject matter because I was just basically being a parrot. Mm-hmm. I'm parakeeting the program and the teaching, reading it and reading it, but it's not being internalized because I was still straddling the fence, using deceptive intelligence. And once he gave me that, and it was a Savior's Day that the study group in Petersburg, they came in, they catered our event, and the title of the Savior's Day was entitled Doing God's Business in the World. And that was the lecture that Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan gave. And once these brothers began to teach and we gave the keynote address, immediately after that, I got sick. They couldn't figure out what the symptom was. My vitals were fine, my pulse ox was fine, but I was in tremendous pain. And then I said, Allah, if you get me out of this or just take this away from me, I promise you, this is my word that I'm going to submit. I'm not going to straddle. And that night, that morning, the nurses, they had me on medical hold and they had me in the observation cell. I got up and I made my Fajr prayer. I was in there working out, doing my calisthenics, and they came by and said, Mr. Muhammad, you okay? I said, yes, ma'am. They said, well, the doctor needs to see you. I said, okay. But they said, so we thought it was appendicitis, but you up and you were moving around. I said, ma'am, I knew exactly what it was. I said, I know what it was. And right there, that's why I said, I can't turn around after this.
Now, we know when we serve time, our mother served time with us.
Yes.
What effect did it have on your mother when you went to prison? And did she see your transformation? And how did she react to your transformation, accepting the teachings of the Most High Muhammad?
Oh, my goodness. She thought I committed blasphemy at that particular point. Mm-hmm. But in that, I kept getting into trouble. And so when she came, she did one particular visit that she came and she said, baby, I can't keep coming up here. Mm-hmm. And I can't keep doing this. And you was in prison and you started getting into trouble. And we're trying to get you out of prison. So when she cried in that visiting room, it hurt. It hurt deep. And she always made that trip for Mother's Day until she wasn't able to do it. And that's when I was getting closer to coming home. So she was all right, but since I've been out and have been back in Mississippi, just yesterday when I took her to the cardiologist, brother, and as Allah is my witness, when I took her back home, her and my sister, she literally just hugged me and she said, baby, despite all that you've been through, I am so proud of you right now.
You're gonna make me cry, bro.
I mean, I'm actually holding back because that is, that's the greatest joy
Mm,
that a son can feel
mm.
when, um,
It's all right, bro.
when your mother tells you that she's proud of you and what you're doing. It's no greater joy.
Oh, praise you too. Brothers and sisters, if you're tuning in to the Self-Improvement Basis for Community Development Talk Show, I'm here with my brother Malik Muhammad. He's sharing his testimony as it relates to the Nation of Islam Prison Reform Ministry and the difficult factor that he faced in accepting Islam in the prison and his difficult factor facing with his family. And people need to know how important the Nation of Islam is important to the brothers in prison.
Yes, it is.
People say when you going in prison and you gonna convert to Islam or you converting to Islam. First of all, we're not converting to anything. The question is, what were we before we accepted our own and began to be ourselves, which is a righteous Muslim?
Yes, sir.
So when you went into prison, I know you was faced with that too. Brother, you converting, people didn't take you serious.
Right.
You had to go through these difficulties because as I hear you speak, you know, I'm hearing Allah guiding your steps as you tell your testimony. Because sometimes we think we doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Brother Jabril said you didn't call yourself. You might have met that brother, and that brother, God used that brother in the proper way to get your attention.
Yes, sir.
But he sent people after us to help his Christ and his Messiah. So as you tell your testimony and we hear you walk this path, it's only bearing witness that God is telling you go left, go right, don't do this, and he's working through men for the benefit of men.
Yes, sir.
And things. So we thank you, brother. I understand the feeling because my brother went to prison. I watched my mother going back and forth and traveling and seeing her and looking at the pain in her eyes in the court system and dealing with the judges and the attorneys and the DAs and money that we waste. And sometimes they don't understand. Right. Sometimes God had to put us in a fiery furnace and put us in a vice to get our position. Yes, and that's the point we're trying to make.
Yes, sir.
You know, that God never turns his back on him.
No, he doesn't.
So now, 23 years?
25.
25 years. We want to cut that short. You come home. What type of adjustments did you have to make? Because people, this doesn't happen overnight, do it?
No, sir, it does not. When I was released during the height of COVID. Mm-hmm. So my letter that I received from Chicago states that upon completion of your sentence, report to your nearest master study group to complete your registration. Mm-hmm. So I get out, my anticipation, I didn't know that the world was shut down. So I'm coming out, I'm like, okay, well, I get to make Savior's Day in 21, I get to graduate, I get to do all these particular things, and I get out, I can't even report to a mosque.
Another difficulty.
So I'm like, what am I to do? The travel, it was travel restrictions, so I had to stay in Virginia until I could travel. So they put me up in, it's like halfway house. But it was a nice little place. And I had to stay there. And I'm making my prayers. I'm calling the state of Virginia prison reform minister and keeping in contact with him. And he's saying, okay, well, brother, do this. So now he put me in contact with the student captain and then the student secretaries and student lieutenants. So I'm in contact with them. We're not having any class. Not able to attend the manhood training class or the FOI class because wasn't able to recite, not a registered Muslim, don't have a nation's ID, so I'm not privy to that. So it was a lot of things that were just being thrown at me. And at times I was like, what am I doing? What good is this doing? I can't get to what I felt that saved me. So the difficulty fact of it was that I had to go into my own storage bank that Allah had blessed me with while I was there in prison.
What the captain said.
Yes, sir. And began to pull on those. And as I'm pulling on those, I'm like, okay, well, I pull out a book, I'm reading it. I navigate my way through YouTube, look at a video here and there. I watch the Criterion right there in my room. Wasn't able to move, so I come out of confinement and being confined again. So it was just challenge after challenge after challenge. Then I get a job, I get a promotion on the job, then my PO comes and say, well, okay, Mr. Muhammad, you ready to go home? I said, yes, ma'am. He said, well, how soon can you leave? I said, as soon as possible. He said, well, your report date is September 15th. So I called my family and said, look, people said I could leave, so I left. It was that Friday. I got on the plane that Saturday morning from Richmond International Airport, flying here to Little Rock, and then from Little Rock they drove me down here. And I get here after I just did my recitation and became a registered Muslim August 29th of 2020. Now, coming to this aspect, now I'm faced with the challenge again. I'm in Mississippi. And I started going through, and I was attending class, then the captain said, well, brother, until we get your travel papers, we can't allow you and permit you to be in the class. Until then, another hurt. So it was just challenge after challenge, but the training in what the Nation of Islam Prison Reform Ministry did for me while I was incarcerated, it gave me the will and the wherewithal to sustain.
Wow. Brothers and sisters, I'm Brother James Muhammad. I'm sitting here with Brother Malik. We're discussing the Nation of Islam Prison Reform Ministry. The brother was sharing his testimony, and it's heartwarming. And all the mothers and fathers who are out there who have brothers and sisters or children, relatives in the correctional system, search out the Nation of Islam program. There's a minister in your city going into the prison. Make sure they get into the self-improvement basis for community development study guides. Why? Because we all have room for improvement, right?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to share these words once again from the Honorable Minister Farrakhan. Then I have a question for you. The minister stated, true prison reform starts with the enlightenment of who the inmate is in reality and not what he or she has become due to circumstances. Why is it important that we don't give up on our people when they are incarcerated? Never say things like, they're never gonna be any good. He's never gonna change. Why is it so important for those to know, stay in contact with them, share with them the life-giving teachings of Most High Elijah Muhammad, whether they're Christian, Muslim, or Jew, make sure they have a self-improvement study guide.
That's right.
Because you said reading is what sparked an interest in the Nation of Islam from the book Message to the Black Man. Now, a lot of prisons won't allow Message to the Black Man in the prison.
Yes, sir.
But there are a lot of self-improvement study guides.
Yes, they will.
Were you able to get the self-improvement study guides? And why do you think it's important for us to stay focused, constantly stay in contact with our brothers and sisters in prison and never give up on them?
That's a beautiful question, and I'm a living testament as to why. Because in there, we are so detached from society, and they put the family through so much just to even try to come in and see you. So to give up on your loved one when the staff and administration and many of them just look down upon you as if you are nothing, you just gum on the bottom of the shoe, scum of the earth, you're nothing but a number. And they feel that you should have no right know anything whatsoever. Let alone even the male. They said these things are privileges, not rights.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're staying in contact with your loved one, you don't want them to become hard-hearted and hardened. Because if they're not getting love in there, and they're not getting love from the loved one, then you are turning their heart cold. And then we begin to wonder why the recidivism rate becomes so high.
Mm-hmm.
Because they feel as though there's no redress from society, from the prison administration or officials, or from their families. Regardless of what may have happened, Jesus said it best, let he who is without sin cast the first stone. So don't castigate your loved one while they're there, even though they may be getting into trouble. Embrace them. Have a heartfelt talk. Don't talk down to them. Talk directly to them and allow them to feel the pain that you're going through, because he's not the only one or she's not the only one incarcerated. You are incarcerated as well, so you have to explain those situations and ask them, okay, what's really going on? No. And they'll begin to open up because they feel that you care. Not just you're going to send money or you're going to bring this. Don't bring nothing that's going to be detrimental. You bring something that's going to be fundamental and give them love, give them teachings, but first, give them God.
All right. Brothers, we have about 2 minutes. Can you share with the audience some advice to help them with those who are incarcerated in this system? So if you want to take this time now and share with the mothers and the wives and the sisters and the brothers, what can they do to help their brothers and sisters and family members that are incarcerated?
I would say to the families and friends of those who are incarcerated, encourage your loved one. Stay in contact with them. Even if it's just a brief moment, or now they have JPay so you can email them. Email them a brief saying, just say, okay, hi, I just want to say I love you, I'm thinking about you. That goes a long way while you're incarcerated. It really does. It's like, because I remember when I first got my tablet, and when people got the tablets, they were going around showing the emails. So the emails are important. The pictures are important. The visits are important. All of these things are important to the rehabilitation.
Beautiful.
And when they begin to be released, they're going through re-entry. But you have to understand that they are used to a culture that's in prison. So take your time to understand them. And as they tell us, we have to take our time to understand you and your routine. Your life didn't stop because we got incarcerated, and our lives didn't stop because we got incarcerated. We just had to go through a different system and adjust to that culture. So oftentimes that culture is subconsciously brought out into society. So if he's doing a particular thing, be patient with your loved one. Be patient. And the patience go a long way.
My brother, thank you for coming on Self-Improvement Basis for Community Development Talk Show. Brother, we'll be back giving us an update on the prison reform ministry and things that are going on in the penal system. Brothers and sisters that are out there incarcerated, know that the Nation of Islam is back. The minister have released us to go back to our mosque and our study group. And as soon as we get the okay to come into the prison, we will become running.
Yes.
Our brothers and sisters, we love you. Thank you once again for tuning in to the Self-Improvement Basis for Community Development Talk Show. Remember, get the study guide. You can find more information about the study guide on study.noi.org and sign up to get your information about the Self-Improvement Basis for Community Development Study Guide. Until next week, peace be unto you.